Welcome to the Puller's Pit Podcast, hosted by BigMike and his buddy Ray Big Country Cote. This is your one-stop shop for everything related to arm wrestling and grip strength, news and entertainment. Presented by Infinity Functional Performance, 98 Arm Wrestling, Castle Rock Ranch in Golden Valley, Arizona, and Mad Tuna Fishing Charters. This is the Puller's Pit. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Puller's Pit. I'm Big Mike, and I'm here with my buddy Ray Big Country Cote, and our guest today is his wife, the Beautiful Disaster Autumn Cote. How's it going, everybody?
Going awesome. How you doing, buddy?
Bro, I'm doing good. Did not sleep worth a damn last night, and slept through all my alarms this morning, and they were going for about 2 hours.
Oh, goodness.
Yeah. So... Other than that, I'm doing fine, though. So, Autumn, I wanted to ask you, how long have you actually been doing this? How long have you been in the sport?
Off and on for about 8 years or so.
When did you first start? Do you remember?
No. No, I can claim old age. And those kind of things start to, memory starts to go. I think it's the first thing to go when you get old.
Well, with that, do you remember your first event?
Yes, it was actually in, it was one of Jamie Sheldon's events. I remember it very well because my trophy / medal was a NutriShop hat.
Do you still have it?
Yes, I do.
Nice.
It's so old. The lettering used to be pink and it is now a faded off-white.
Wow.
Never been worn.
So what made you want to get into the sport?
So I got into it. I would say a lot of it had to do with my husband. He got me into it, him doing it for so long and whatnot, and started training and discovered I was really good at it and caught on really quickly and was able to be blessed to pull some pretty notable females. Back when I first started, this was back in the heyday of Valerie Beach and Stephanie Chavez and Summer Kirby and Shauna Rubin and Lisa Wolfley and all these wonderful women, because pulling Valerie was very nerve-wracking, watching her matches and how good she was in her heyday.
Were you scared walking into that match?
Oh, yes.
What were you feeling?
I was very nervous, very, very nervous, very humbled, getting to go up, and very blessed that a woman like Valerie was willing to pull a pretty much nobody like myself.
Was it when you went to grip up? Was it like a sense of relief when you finally felt her actual strength, or was it like a sense of oh shit?
It was an oh shit moment because I'm like, okay,
really?
I had watched her videos, and Valerie is a very fast puller. When they say go, she's going, and she's done before you even move most of the time with her matches when she was actively pulling. So I had to really brace myself.
And so is that how you won it, that you just kind of sustained it and you were able to outlast her, or how were you able to overcome that?
So Valerie, because she's fast, like I've discovered doing, throughout my arm wrestling career, I guess, I've discovered that I'm not a fast puller, but I'm defensive. So I just got very defensive and just basically just held and just, defended my arm. So when she hit, I just stopped her. And then I was able to do my move and do what I needed to do.
Before I ask the next question, I just want to give a shout out to Katie Owens. She was supposed to be on tonight's show. She had an emergency which kept her from coming. So prayers and blessings to whatever's going on. Hopefully everything is okay and she can come and do next time.
Absolutely.
At what point, what was the defining point in your match with Valerie that you said, I got this, I can win this?
I would say the first match, yeah, she got me pretty good. I was really nervous, but after the second, it was a best of 5. So after the second one, and I was able to get a 1 on her, I was like, yeah, I got this. It's, get over the nerves, get mad, and once I did get that win, I was very proud of myself and knew that, I don't need to be nervous with anyone and that I can, do anything I put my mind to.
Now I'm going to test your memory here.
God.
I remember after the second match, Valerie leaned over, gave you a hug, and said something to you in your ear. Do you remember what she said?
Honestly, I do not, and I don't want to say or missay what she might have said because I do not remember exactly what she said.
I've always wondered that. And to this day, I think this is the first time I've ever asked you what it is she actually said to you.
I think it was somewhere along the lines of you've got this, or something like that. Just giving me some encouragement.
So you've mentioned a lot of legends in the sport. I remember your first LA Fit Expo, the first person you ever pulled, which is
God.
the queen of arm wrestling. Like, she is the legend of legends when it comes to arm wrestling. And that
Lori
is
Cole.
just Lori Cole.
She spanked me hard. I had no business pulling her, but I'm like, I'm not going to be scared. I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to win, but I'm just going to go.
And for those listeners who might not know who Lori Cole is, Lori Cole was very vital in putting together the movie Over the Top and that whole tournament that was filmed during the movie of Over the Top. When you got called up to the table, now I know that you and Lori had kind of formed a relationship and you were friends, and Lori's an amazing woman. But when you got called up to the table, I know when Mike asked you, what you felt when you went up to Valerie, but what did you feel like when you heard your name get called to the table to pull Lori?
I'm like, well, this has been fun. I knew right off the bat. I'm like, I'm going to give her everything I got, but this is going to be all bad. And but it was fun, and I was very blessed to be able to pull her because, as everyone knows, she's long since retired. She doesn't pull anymore. She's still very active in the sport, very active in promoting and stuff like that. But so I was very blessed that I did get that one match with her.
Nice. So with all the women you have pulled in your career, who would you say was your biggest win, and which match would you say was your hardest loss?
I would say, like I said, biggest win would be Valerie and Summer. Pulling Summer was a big achievement for me. Shauna Rubin. My favorite one, of course, is Rebecca Todd, because I was able to beat her right and left. So I was very impressed with myself that, I could, because at the time she was actively pulling. So that was a big deal for me, being who she was. So as far as biggest loss,
Hardest loss.
I don't.
What was the hardest loss for you to accept?
Right now, I would have to say currently, I would say the fact that I haven't had a win over Stephanie yet.
Can you expound on that more?
So first time coming back, I'd taken a break from it and I got set up with a super.
Hold on, we're talking about Stephanie Spencer, correct?
Yes. Okay. So I had got a set up with a match with her. I hadn't been actively training or doing anything yet. I was just kind of just barely coming back in, got a super match with her set up in LA at a bar from Kane Fonticino. Sorry if I'm saying his name wrong. Went down there, did a super match with her, and just absolutely, it was just horrible. The whole thing was just a nightmare. I wasn't able to do anything, wasn't able to, it was horrible. And I was so mad, that happened. And, so went, started training, started preparing, got set up with the super match for your event, Ray, in Arizona for Halloween weekend. And, did that, prepared for my opponent, and was able to pull her in the tournament. Wasn't super matching her at that tournament, but was able to pull her in the tournament. And I was very proud of myself that I was able to stop her, and I was able to definitely hold her on the table and manipulate her wrist. I didn't get a win, but just being able to do that, which was a big improvement from that super match where I wasn't doing anything. She pinned me so fast in that first super match, but just being able to do what I did gave me that confidence that, like, okay, if I train a little bit more, build my strength up a little bit more, get my wrist a little bit stronger, I think I'll be able to get a win, and that'll make me feel really good.
So being a seasoned arm wrestler, what do you think were some of the elements on why you weren't able to effectively stop Stephanie in your super match with her, but you were able to come back a year or so later and do better, as you said? You didn't get the win, but you were able to stop her hit. You were able to bust her wrist back. What were the major differences between the super match and the American Southwest Arm Wrestling Championship back in on Halloween weekend? What do you think were the major components that changed that gave you a better result?
Definitely was more training. Definitely going in there and working a lot on my strength. I've been doing a lot of cupping exercises, wrist curls with our new handle that we just got. Doing a lot of the Devon riser lift, have a weight right here and doing the wrist curls with that and getting this part of my wrist stronger. So I think that definitely contributed a lot of what I was able to do with her at that tournament.
Is your
just
training,
going in there and just, what's that?
I was going to say, is your training where you would like it to be? Or do you feel like you know where there's room that you can make some improvement?
Always room for improvement. I would say that, me and my husband are getting back in there. We're gonna, get more of a routine set up, get more established, start doing some dedicated exercises, and just getting back in there and knocking the rust off and just building it all back up. Muscle memory is a great thing. It definitely remembers, even if you've taken a break for a while.
So speaking of that, at one point, I believe you were like a top 5 ranked arm wrestler in California for women's, right? Or something like that, or a top 10 or something like that.
Yeah.
What made you decide to take a break and then ultimately recently make your return?
Take a break, and I just wanted to get back into it. I did take a break. I was doing, arm wrestling for a while with, as I said, with some of the, bigger names in the sport. I did take a break. Honestly, the first time I took a break and got into arm lifting, which is essentially grip sports, got sick of the politics, got sick of the drama. So took a break from that, did a natural transition to arm lifting, which is, again, grip sports. Did that for a couple of years. Then decided, it was time to come back to arm wrestling and try to, get back in there and see how it goes.
You mentioned politics and drama. Can you tell us, like, what do you mean? What are some of the politics and drama that you?
So some of that would be finding it hard to, get training in, finding it hard to have people to train with, hard to get invited to practices, things like that. One of the biggest things that would be really frustrating for me was, training my butt off to get to a tournament, get there and there's no women, so I'm not pulling. So it's very frustrating, 3-4 months of training and can't pull. There's no women to pull.
So speaking of that, are there like, you mean like, were there like clubs or teams that were mostly made up of women that you couldn't necessarily get around to training with that you would have liked, or is there just not enough around women pullers to sort of have a, I don't know, Ray, I mean, most of these teams are made up of guys who are all pulling each other. It's a little bit different, I would say. But was that something that contributed to you leaving?
Yeah, so a lot of it. Yeah, there wasn't. It came to a point where there wasn't really any women in California. There really is very, very little women out here to pull. And traveling sometimes can be really hard to manage, and so it just became really frustrating and kind of like, just take a break for a little bit from it.
Why do you think, with all your success, beating Valerie Beach, beating Rebecca Todd, beating Shauna Rubin, and all these women you beat, why do you think you were never given the shot at a WAL spot or a UAL spot? What is it that you think it was that kept you from going to that next level?
Well, to be honest, and I I hate saying it, but even though, because I don't think it's fair and I think it's wrong, but some of it I think is the fact that there's people in this sport that don't like my husband, which I think is wrong and pretty petty and cowardly to keep somebody out of.
Me, I'm so handsome.
How can you hate that face?
So you feel that because of me, you were held back a little bit?
I think so. I think because a lot of people held their personal feelings, whatever they may have been towards him. Because I absolutely think that where I was at the time when I first started, I absolutely should have gotten, invited to some of the bigger tournaments. I absolutely should have, gotten a little bit more recognition because of who I was beating. And it just wasn't there. I mean, that's one reason. I mean, there could be other reasons. I honestly don't know. The rankings to me for women nowadays are silly and don't make any sense.
Speaking of rankings, so California had some rankings, which you were, I believe, you were ranked 4th or 5th right-handed. You were ranked 4th left-handed. Now you say the rankings was kind of silly. Why do you say that? Can you give us an example why you think? We'll just pick the California rankings for now. Why do you think the California rankings for women is silly?
I think one of the reasons is because, like for example, I wanted to pull against a certain competitor, and for whatever reason, that matchup was never made, so I could never move up. This particular lady doesn't pull anymore. She doesn't have anything to do with arm wrestling anymore, but for whatever reason, she still has that ranked spot. And it seems like a lot of the rankings now for women are based off of are based off of how many tournaments they pull versus who they pull.
Now, since your return, so you went to a tournament with me in Georgia. You kind of came off the couch and pulled in that tournament, no training. You took, I believe, 2nd right and 1st left. Am I correct on that? The one in Georgia? Okay.
Yes.
And then you pulled a super match against Lucky Wood a few months later at the LA Fit Expo. Then you did the super match with Stephanie. And then you did the Patterson event. Do you feel that you've been active enough to even be on a ranking system?
Yes and no. I mean, I want to say, I mean, definitely putting myself out there, maybe not going to, you know, I've never been the type of polo to go to, 2 or 3 tournaments a month. Sometimes I'll go to a tournament and wait 3 or 4 months before I go to another one. But I don't know. I just think it's weird how they do the ranking system. It's hard to describe.
Understood. Now, we were talking about Stephanie Spencer. How would you rank Stephanie Spencer amongst all the women that you've pulled in your career? Would you rank her at the very top, middle, bottom? How would you rank her as one of the women that you've pulled?
I would say she is in the middle, to be fair.
Okay, can you expound on that a little more, please?
So in the middle, I say that because the women that I have pulled against, I think a lot of them they just came in and just, I don't know, maybe natural ability is not the right word for it. They just came in and just were able to do it and get it done. With Stephanie, she's a good competitor. She's a good puller. She is a tough person to beat. She has a really strong bicep. But I would say when I first started, the women that I beat were like the women to pull against. Those were it, and I find that sometimes now, like today, it's hard, like the female that I was wanting to call out to try to get her spot, it was never like made a done deal, so it's very hard to me to go up in ranking, because it's almost like that female competitor, the one you want to call out, it's almost like they're allowed to say that they don't want to pull that woman so they can keep their spot, which back when I first started, it was like, no, you got called out, you're pulling, and that's it. You win, you keep your spot. You don't win, you don't keep it. But now it's like, okay, the person getting called out can make that decision for themselves and get a choice if they want to pull or not.
Would you say the competition in the women's class is harder today or when you first started?
I would say it's definitely gotten harder.
Why do you think that?
I think it's just ran a little bit differently now. Back then it was very much about leagues. Back then it was UAL and WAL were the biggest ones. So if you wanted to be the best, you had to be the best to get into those leagues. And now it just seems like you're ranked based off of how many tournaments you pull in. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, it's how many times you've pulled.
What do you think is the biggest the biggest pro or asset that women's arm wrestling brings to the sport? And what do you think is the biggest downfall of women's arm wrestling?
I think we need to have more female participation. I think that the lack of female participation is a lot of the reason why we don't have more female competitors in the sport willing to pull. Another big issue I see is women showing up to tournaments, and not just picking and choosing tournaments, just showing up to a tournament because they want to pull, because they want to get that recognition. They want to get out there, be put out there, in the sport. And I think that's sometimes a factor, is that, women can be picky and choosy over sports, not sports tournaments. For me, when I was doing it and I was like really, really active doing it, I went everywhere, and it didn't matter how small the tournament was. It didn't matter, if there was a big name attached to it. I mean, I went to a small tournament, in Maine, went to Louisiana. And that Louisiana had that's when I won one of my super matches against Rebecca Todd. It was just me and her. And, we super matched each other. So I think it's just about showing up, and not so much just showing up because of the name of the tournament or who the promoter is, just showing up to promote and support, period. no matter who it is, no matter, anything like that.
In your opinion, what would get more women to come out to these events?
I think, honestly, as far as the promoters go, a lot of promoters like Ray and Bill Collins, they do a lot, trying to promote women in this sport. And I get it. As a promoter, it must be very frustrating when they're putting classes out there, they're doing medals and stuff like that for the women. So I couldn't really tell you what could be done to get women out there to go to these, tournaments, because like I said, my husband, Bill Collins is another big, promoter of females in the sport. And I get it. It can get to a point to where they don't want to promote females anymore because they don't show up.
Do you feel that the women's division is kind of cliquey? Like women decide on what events to go to? Like say, for example, somebody didn't like you, so they didn't come to the event because they didn't like you. Do you decide what events you go to based off of who you like, or who's going to be there? And do you feel that women's arm wrestling has become kind of cliquish? Like it's the same women always competing in the same turns because they want to pull their best friend. What is your thoughts and opinions on that?
I think it is, because as far as females go, yes, it is very, some women don't want to pull other women. And I believe that at the end, where they're competing, where they're trying to promote, where they're trying to get our name out there, and it shouldn't matter. Like, okay, I don't like that person, so I'm not going to go to that tournament, or, oh, my friend's not going to be there, so I'm not going to go. It very much should be you're going because you're trying to put yourself out there. You're trying to put women's names out there. You're trying to get women promoted in the sport of arm wrestling. And it's not really like that anymore. You know,
Would it
when
help? Sorry, Ray? What was that league last week that Ryan was talking about that Sean was starting, and it was if that event had that stamp on it, that it was going to be a good event and everything was going to get reported correctly. And
So it's not a league; it's an organization called the
yes, an organization.
And basically, if you're part of the way, from what my understanding, the AUA was set up to give athletes a sense of comfort to know that, hey, this is an AUA event. They're going to follow a set of standards set by the organization, meaning certified refs. You're going to be using the AIRS program that Corey Miller set up. So you knew that you were going to a quality event. At least that's the way. That was the hope behind the AUA, and that people would get behind it and accept it and look at it as the standard. And that was supposed to, again, give a sense of comfort to the athlete that, hey, this is a quality event and we can feel good and we can feel safe, going to that event.
So do you think that if events had a backing by an organization or something like that, where that was the de facto standard for, yes, this is a good event and everything that gets done here, your results will be posted, and then from there we'll develop our rankings, do you think that would sort of kill some of the clickiness that happens that you feel in the women's side of things?
So for me, coming from a promoter standpoint, I've put on several events. I've been putting on events since 1987, off and on, and I've always had good turnouts. One of the events that I put on was Battle in the Desert, the one where my wife pulled Valerie Beach. I had like 13 women there, and top level women. We gave away great cash, great prizes. Then you fast forward, and I was not backed by anybody, right? It was just me throwing an event. Fast forward to 2025, my first event under the American Southwest Arm Wrestling League. We had cash payouts for women. We had an overall Queen of the Table for women, which paid cash. Great medals. Super matches. The women got paid the same as the men. You know, if they won their super match, they got a championship belt. And the only women that showed up were the women that I had booked for the super matches. I honestly, this has been my question since I've been involved in the sport. I don't know what the secret recipe is to attract women to come to an event. My wife mentioned Bill Collins of the UAL. Here's a respected man throughout the sport of arm wrestling. He's a master referee. He's been in the game for a long time, and he puts out a ton of money to give quality awards. He bends over backwards to make, the women's classes. He even offers amateur women's classes now. And at least the events I've been to recently of his, women just don't show up. I don't know why. I don't know. I can say, to answer your question, I don't believe being a part of the AUA affected me positively or negatively in that sense. I just think women, in my opinion, are and this may hurt or may not hurt my promotions going forward. But I just feel that they're cliquey, and I feel that they stay in their comfort zone. When I know, as a competitor, if I had an issue with another arm wrestler, I didn't go online and go back and forth. Let's go to the table, man. I would show up to an event just to pull that guy, just so I could, rip his arm off and shut him up. In my experiences, women don't do that. I feel they avoid each other if they don't like each other. And you have other promoters like Tim Tillamage, who doesn't charge women to compete in his events. And his events, his last event, from what I understand, was pretty successful for a women's class, and he had another event that wasn't. So I don't know what the secret formula is. So, Autumn, you're back on the table. You're training. We had plans to go to Winter Blast. However, that didn't work out. So we're going to be going to Sean Hancock's event in Las Vegas, March 14th, under Boom Arm Wrestling. If there's one person that you hope to run into and be able to pull at that event, who would it be?
Right now, Stephanie Spencer. I got it.
You got it? You think you've done enough to and figured her out to beat her?
By then, yeah. I mean, I figured out that, my bicep needs to get stronger. I pretty much have figured out how to manipulate and take care of her wrist. My wrist just in and of itself is pretty strong because of arm wrestling and because of all the grip sports I did. Plus my fingers, because that's all grip sports and arm lifting really is. Yeah, some of it is strength, but a lot of it is you have to have strong fingers, you have to have a strong wrist. So doing that for 2 years really built that area up really good. So I think just getting stronger will be the key. Lifting heavier weights will definitely be the key for this. And once I focus in and I want to, really win against someone, I really set my mind to it until I can get that win.
What advice would you give a new puller coming into the sport, a woman, looking to achieve greatness in this sport? What advice would you give? For example, our daughter, Merida, 9 years old, already competing, already showing she's a little beast, has won every super match, has won every event she's competed in. What advice would you give a new person, a new woman coming into the sport?
Well, first, have fun. Don't be scared. Be safe. Go to as many practices as you can. Eventually get to where you can go to as many tournaments as you can. Pull against as many different people as you can, so you get a feel for all types of opponents. Always be safe. Always listen to the person that's teaching you how to do it. And just have fun. You can't be scared of it. It's a lot of fun, and don't treat it like you said, like a clique. Don't treat it like, you're like you're in high school and you have like your little, area in the cafeteria that you're hanging out with. Definitely branch out. Definitely put yourself out there. Don't hide behind Facebook and be scared to, okay, that that woman's talking about me, I'm gonna go take care of it on the table type of thing. So, and train your butt off. Definitely work for it.
What do beginners typically overtrain?
I think I've seen like with beginners, I see a lot of them, especially lately. For whatever reason, they seem to think that it's all in practicing, how many practices you can go to. And I think a lot of them, I can't really say with women, because like I said, there's not really any women for me to pull out here. But like with guys, for example, a lot of them think that they can learn all they need to know by going to practice. And they don't understand that more than half of what they need to know and be developing and learning is actually in a gym. And actually training and actually exercising and actually working on your wrist and your developing your bicep and your, all that stuff. A lot of them think that, well, I can do, I'll be just fine if I just keep going to practices. And it's not just about going to practices. That actually can hurt you if you do too much of it more than help you.
What would you say is your ideal ratio of table time versus gym time?
I would say for me and, with my husband, I would say we do probably about 85% gym time versus practices. We don't do very much table time because honestly, it's not, in my opinion, it's not needed. We can pull a little bit against each other. When I do go to practices, yeah, I am pulling men. I think that actually helps me a little bit because I do get stronger, but it kind of sucks because then when I go and pull against women in tournaments, then I'm like, okay, I have to okay, I'm now pulling a girl. I have to get used to holding, a female hand versus a big old, guy hand. But I think it's more important to, go in the gym and train and be able to get that exercise and build everything up because table time is only going to show you the basics. It's only going to show you, how to move, how to top roll, how to, hook, how to press. It's not going to get you, get your bicep strong. It's not going to strengthen your wrist. It's not going to, develop all those muscles that you need to be successful on a table.
Not saying you do, but if you had a hit list of ladies you would want to call out and try to get a super match with, who would some of those women be?
I would say probably Stephanie Spencer. I definitely want to try to get the lady I was supposed to pull in Arizona. I think it was Brittany. I think her name was. The lady I wanted to pull in Arizona that I didn't get to pull for, various reasons. Not that she's arm wrestling anymore, so it's probably a moot point. But I definitely, just to get my ranking, I definitely want to pull Georgiana. I don't think is going to happen because I really don't think she's active anymore. I don't even think she's practicing anymore. Those would be the three right now that I would, if I had a list. I'm the type of person that, if I get beat by an opponent, then now you're kind of, you're on my list. I'm going to do everything I can to train to try to beat you until I can beat you. That's kind of how I work when I arm wrestle, which is what I'm doing with Stephanie.
When you came back and you had your first super match against Lucky Wood, it seemed like you were able to contain her out of the strap. But then when you all slipped, you went into the strap, and it just seemed that Lucky had too much for you. If you were to get back on the table against Lucky today, what do you think the outcome of that match would be?
I think I would do a lot better. I would definitely be able to stop her. I'd definitely be able to contain her wrist. I think she'd have a hard time. If she did get a victory, I think she'd have a very difficult time getting one. So I think it would be a lot different today if I was able to get a match with her.
I see it on Facebook and social media. It seems that what's being very successful with women lately is these round robins. Do you think that is the future of women's arm wrestling, and tournament pulling is going to kind of fall to the wayside? Or do you think that is just, again, do you think that's just for a specific group of women that get picked for that?
I think it's all going to depend on female participation. It's all going to depend on women getting into the sport, new women coming in and being willing to pull. So that's going to be the factor. It very well could be that's how women's arm wrestling is going to turn out, because there is not going to be enough women in this sport. So they're going to have to group us together and do round robins and do super matches, because there won't be enough of us that are showing up at tournaments. Promoters will get tired of it, and that's what they'll have to do in order to have women at their event. Is they'll have to do round robins, they'll have to do super matches, because 2 or 3 women show up. To me, that's not, that's not, it's not really pulling if there's only 3 of you. I mean, let's be real. Each of you are getting a place. To me, that's not really like when I went to Maine. I believe it was a while ago. Ray can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe there was 15 women at that tournament, probably more. And that was a tournament for me, because I pulled a lot of women that day, and I was tired, but it was worth it.
Actually, at that tournament, there was closer to 20 women who showed up to that.
Yeah. See, so that's a tournament to me. I was tired. I was beat up. I was worn out, but it was worth it, because I actually got to, pull. I actually got to, fight for the position that I got. I got to fight for the place that I was in. So it's all going to depend on the women. It's all going to depend on if they show up. It's going to depend if new women get into this sport and decide to start pulling. But round robins could be the way it's going to have to go if, there's not more support.
So what would you say to women who might stumble across this or see it somewhere, like if I clip it and stuff like that, and it happens to get out there? What would you say to women who are they're looking for something to get into? They're looking for a sport to get involved with. What would you say to them to get them to jump and come out to these things and get involved?
It's definitely a good way to stay in shape, because it definitely will make you get in the gym and make you train. So it's definitely a good way to keep in shape. Gives you something to do. I think it gives you a good sense of self-worth and self-esteem and achievement. Something you can be proud of. Like, hey, look, I, trained my butt off for 3-4 months and went to a tournament, and I took, 3rd place, 2nd place. I've heard some women say they don't want to get into a gym because they don't want to look like a guy, which is absolutely untrue, because you don't have to go in there and train to where you're going to look like a guy. But go in there and definitely train, keep yourself healthy, work out, stuff like that. And it is fun. At the end of the day, I do have fun doing it. There is moments of frustration, but I do have fun doing it, and I do enjoy doing it when I get to go on the table and pull with women.
So in wrapping this up, Mike kind of already asked the question there, but what does your future look like for 2026? What events are you looking at trying to go to? Why do you want to go to those events? What about those events are attracting you to want to go to those events?
I definitely am excited to go. I was excited to go to Winter Blast, but life happens. Maybe next year. Ryan does have it every year, so maybe next year will be the year. But for this year, I'm really excited to go to Vegas. I've heard that there's a good good amount of women that show up to those tournaments. I have a lot of respect for Sean. He's a good promoter. He's an awesome referee. So I think going to one of his events will be really beneficial. Be a really good tournament for me to pull. Haven't really decided on if we're gonna do what else we're gonna do the rest of the year, but that's definitely gonna be the next one. Just go in there, get in the gym, start getting my routine back, start getting dedicated, really push myself, keep my elbow, strong and healthy, because I did have an injury in Patterson, but I've been really proud of it. It's been really holding up. So I'm just going to keep working on my elbow, make sure it stays strong and good to go for competition. And we'll just see where we go after March and see what happens.
Now, do you plan on staying at your current weight, or are you planning on dropping back down to 154?
I wouldn't mind dropping down. For whatever reason, I have a hard time, dropping weight. But if I can't drop weight where I need to be, then I'll just definitely work on getting stronger so I can hold my own against the bigger girls.
Well, awesome. I want to thank you on behalf of the Fuller's Pit. I want to thank you for coming on tonight and giving us the woman's perspective. I know I get a lot out of this. I hope that other promoters and people get a lot from it and make some adjustments and to be able to attract more women to the events. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I know you are very busy during the day, and it's hard for you to take time out just to sit down and do something like this. So thank you again so much. Always thank you for supporting me and what I do. And I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you. Thanks for coming on.
Mike, get some sleep.
And with that, guys, this is concluding another episode of the Fuller's Pit. Thank you from myself, Big Country, and Big Mike. And I want to give a shout out to our sponsors, Infinity Performance, Functional Performance, sportsgrips.com, engagegrips.com, Mad Tuna, and Epic Engineering. And of course, a big shout out to Ryan Grondin and the 98% family. Until next week, which we will have Billy Ortegas, the founder of the TAL, Texas Arm Wrestling League, and owner of Combat Arm Sports, will be our guest next week. Again, guys, as always, thank you. Peace, love, and hang loose.
Bye, guys.
Take care.
Later.